Today we are going to be solving coin problems and admission problems. So we've got two coin problems here and one example of an admission problem. Let's take a look at the first one here. It talks about on a table there are 20 coins. Some are quarters and others are dimes. Their value is $3.05. How many coins were there? How many quarters and how many dimes were there is basically what they're asking. So what we've got here is a quantity value problem. And we've seen lots of problems like this before. We've seen lots of quantity value or value problems. Well, this one's the quantity value. So the quantity is the number of coins we have. We don't know how many quarters, so let's call that Q. We don't know how many dimes, let's call that D. And let's write our quantity equation. D plus Q equals 20. That's the quantity. The value is the value of the quarters. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use pennies so I don't have to deal with this decimal point. So I'm going to change the value from dollars. So instead of like 0.1, a tenth of a dollar, I'm going to call it 10 cents. So 10 cents times the number of dimes plus 25 cents for the number of quarters equals not $3.05, but 305 cents. And so from this point, now I'm going to go ahead and use the elimination method. Easiest number to eliminate, well, is the D term. So I'm going to multiply by -10. Every number there gets multiplied, and let's see what's left over. So we've got a 15Q is what we have, and this all equals 105. So hopefully it goes in evenly because you can't have a part of a coin. So if you do end up with a part of a coin, you know something's wrong. So these should always be whole numbers, not even negatives. So if you get something like that, watch that answer and check it and see if it's right. So let's see how many times 15 goes in there. I think it's going to end up being about, it's an odd number because 5 times an odd number makes a number that ends in 5. And so when we try that, we might try a 5 times 75. 5 times 15 makes 75. So maybe like a 5 times 7. Let's try that. So maybe off to the side I'll go 5 times by 7 makes 15. I'm sorry, 35. And that does make 7 plus 3 makes 10. Yeah, there it is. So Q is 7. So from there, just take that 7 and substitute. The quantity equation's the easiest one. Put it right there and subtract that from the total. That'll give you the number of dimes. So when you do that subtraction, end up with 13. So D equals 13. So there it is. 13 dimes, 7 quarters. Well, another problem to practice. This time we have a guy who rented some skates. Calvin rented some skates, and he used only dimes and nickels. 19 coins in all. How many of each were there? Same thing. We've got a quantity value problem. So let's try writing our quantity equation. So quantity, number of dimes, we don't know. Let's call that D. Number of nickels, don't know. Let's call that N. So it's just going to be D plus N equals the total number, 19. 19 coins in all. Well, the value, let's do the same thing. Let's do the value of a dime. So 10 cents. Value of a nickel, 5 cents. And then the total value. Now, here's where we got to make sure we're careful. We're going to change this to 135. Make sure you move it so that we have the same units. So if you're going to use dollars, you'd have to put the decimal point in here. So it'd be 0.10, 0.05. It would be the two values of those coins. So we're ready to solve. Nice thing about this one is we can multiply by -10 again. Let's do that. Every number there multiplied by -10, and we'll solve for N first. So over here we get a -190, and we got to subtract. Well, actually add, but when they're opposite signs, we're really subtracting. And so we go ahead and do that, and we've got ourselves a -5n. And now off to the side, make sure you put the bigger number on top when you're doing that subtraction. You see, you have to borrow from that 9. That changes to an 8. And so we end up with 55. So n equals -5n equals -55. So we go ahead and divide by that -5. And as I said before, if you're getting negative numbers or you're getting a fraction, something's wrong. Then you know you're doing something wrong. Check your work. So we can't have a fraction of a coin. N is 11. Well, to find the number of dimes, just substitute. D plus N, let's do it this way, D plus N, which is 11, equals 19. So we just took this 11 and put it right back into place of the N. And subtract that 11 from both sides, and that gave us 8. So 8 dimes is what we have there, 11 nickels. Well, got another one to try. This time it's a little different. It's not dealing with coins, but it's similar. It's dealing with ticket prices. So we got 2 different ticket prices and a total number of people that went. So 166 paid admission to the game. Price was $2 for an adult ticket. We don't know how many adults went, but we know there were some adults out of that 166. So let's call that A. 75 cents for children. We don't know how many children went, but we know adults and children together made 166 people. And the total amount taken was that number. Let's go ahead and write our 2 equations. Same thing. We've got a quantity and we've got a value. And so this time our quantity equation is going to be the number of adults plus the number of children equals 166. And for the value, well, same sort of thing. 2A, $2 times the number of adults, plus 75 cents. Okay, I could change it right now to just dollars, but then I'm going to have huge numbers. So I'm going to leave it as 75 cents. It might be easier in this case, because I would have to change this to 29,325. And I think I'll just stick with the dollars and cents for now. If you want to, you can get rid of the decimals, but I'm just going to leave them. So I'm going to cancel out A first. This will be the easier number. So multiply by -2. Each number there by -2. So we got -2A minus 2C. And this all equals, then I have to double these numbers here. So this makes a 12. That makes 12 and 1 make 13. And that makes 2 and 1 make 3. So -332. So when we're doing this, got to add these together. I can do the C value in my head. So if we take 75 cents from $2, we're left with $1.25. And that's a negative number because I have more negatives than positives. But then off to the side here, 332 minus 293, I got to add those decimal points, bring those up here as well. So when I subtract, I know I end up with a negative number because I have more negatives than positives, but I'm going to have to borrow. So let's just go ahead and get this done. We'll borrow all the way back from that last number. That changes to a 2, this to a 12, this to an 11, this to a 9. So what do we have left? 5, 7. This makes 8. And see, that number was a 9, so it was 13, so it's a 12 now. So 12 minus 9 makes 3. So there it is, 38.75. So let's rewrite that number there. So negative 38.75. So we're ready to do our division. So here's where you're going to end up having to move that decimal. I'd move it now. 2 spaces over, move this one as well. 2 spaces over. So we're doing the division of negative 125. Negative 125. So again, off to the side, we got another big problem here. We got to do 125 into 3875. But what's nice about these is you're not going to have decimals at the end, so this should work out. If it doesn't, you're doing something wrong. So let's go ahead and start this. 125 into 387. Well, 2 times makes 250. Let's try 3 times. So when we do that, that makes 15. And that makes a 6, plus 1 makes 7. And that makes 3. That's pretty close. So we get 2, and that makes 1. Oh, 125. Well, that'd just be 1 time. So there it is. So again, the nice thing is the problems are going to come out even. And if they don't, then you know you made an error. 31. 31 kids ended up showing up. How many adults? Well, just subtract that from the total. So A plus 31 equals 166. Subtract that 31, and you'll have your answer. A equals 134, it looks like. So a lot of adults, just a few kids ended up showing up to this event. Oops, I made a subtraction error there. Let's fix that right now. 135. Do that subtraction right. Fix that. So 6 minus 1 is a 5, not a 4. So 135. Still a lot of adults. Even more now. And only 31 kids. Now there's the first part. The second part deals with writing equations.